Canada and Europe refuse Trump. $2 trillion lost and $43 billion Boeing deal canceled. This video breaks down how Trump's actions led to unprecedented consequences, from trade to aviation to diplomacy. In 3 days, a domino effect began. Contracts suspended, tariffs imposed, markets rocked.
The U.S. will slap a 35% tariff on imports on Canada effective August 1st.
There would be an exemption for goods that comply with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement.
Donald Trump says he'll impose 30% tariffs on imports from the European Union and Mexico starting next month.
Canada and Europe have flatly turned their backs on Trump, leading to the loss of trade agreements worth up to $2 trillion. On top of that, the massive $43 billion contract with Boeing has also been canceled. This is not just a headline shock. It marks the beginning of a global turning point. In just 3 short days, a White House executive order triggered a domino effect. The $43 billion aircraft supply deal was suspended, retaliatory tariff packages were scheduled, and a $2 trillion hole in global trade began to emerge. This is no longer a warning, it is an economic freefall. While Washington remained bogged down in arguments, Europe decisively walked away from the negotiating table, and Canada stepped forward as a central player.
What is unfolding is not a mere trade quarrel, but a deliberate restructuring of the global order.
On May 30th, the U.S. president abruptly declared that negotiations with the European Union had reached a dead end.
Just hours later, he signed an order imposing a 50% tariff on all European goods.
From aluminium and automobiles to electronics and agricultural products. This move sent shockwaves. European stocks immediately losing more than 2%. A once promising aircraft deal projected to set records now faces the prospect of a total freeze worth up to 43 billion euros. If Europe continues with countermeasures, U.S. trade losses could surpass $2 trillion over the next decade. What Washington touted as an economic trump card is quickly turning into a heavy burden on its own shoulders. Brussels wasted no time. The European Commission rolled out retaliatory packages. The quieter, more consequential blow came from another direction. European officials began preparing steps to suspend the massive Boeing agreement. Ryanair, which had placed a $30 billion order for 737 MAX jets, was forced to reconsider its purchase plan. Tariffs and extended delivery schedules drove up costs by as much as 14%. In stark contrast, Airbus shares surged more than 3% on the Frankfurt Exchange. China's COMAC unexpectedly entered the discussion as European carriers weighed building fleets without relying on American aircraft. This is not just a trade collision, it is a crisis of credibility. A more troubling concern is that the influence of the FAA may be eroded. Airbus may benefit short-term, but COMAC's rise could fragment regulatory control and sideline the United States. If Ryanair truly pivots to COMAC, it would mark the first time a European carrier opts for Chinese aircraft over Boeing. Europe's tariffs are carefully targeted at symbolic industries, from motorcycles and blue jeans to peanut butter. In 2024, exports of Harley-Davidson motorcycles to Europe plunged by 30%. American agricultural exports to the EU evaporated by more than $23 billion. Land O'Lakes was immediately affected when Europe imposed additional tariffs. What was touted as protection now exposes domestic vulnerabilities. While Washington erects barriers, Ottawa chose a different path thanks to CETA, creating a smooth corridor to the EU. Industrial giants shifted supply chains to Quebec and Ontario. Canadian clean tech exports to the EU surged 41% year over year. A €1.2 billion hydrogen agreement and aligned standards accelerated clean tech trade. The Clean Energy Summit reached consensus on solar standards, AI smart grids, and rare earth supply chains. If Ryanair abandons Boeing, the firewall blocking Chinese aircraft from Western fleets could be dismantled. Brussels rolled out a $95 billion retaliatory package and prepared to suspend Boeing agreements. The tariff package targets $95 billion of American exports. Since 2023, the EU launched 17 bilateral trade negotiations, providing duty-free access in exchange for cooperation on digital standards and labor. In 2024 alone, the EU signed a USD 3.4 billion supply chain agreement with India, outside the US system. These agreements bypass the US dollar as a payment mechanism. Steel exports from Canada to the EU jumped 24% in the first quarter. 7 new trade agreements were fast-tracked. New contracts include zero tariffs, labor standards, climate commitments, and digital policy alignment. Semiconductor cooperation gradually shifts toward India. Energy and data corridors reorganize. COMAC's presence could erode FAA standards. Certification systems may begin to run in parallel. Europe sourced agricultural products from Latin America, steel from Canada, electronics from China, and semiconductors from India. Every shipment rerouted and every contract suspended is part of a pre-calculated plan to reduce U.S. dependence. This is not chaos, but orderly reconstruction, a quiet transformation of trade rules. The 50% tariff intended as leverage has acted as a catalyst for watershed decisions. The looming collapse of the Boeing-Ryanair deal is symbolic. It shows even industries once seen as America's pride can be shaken.
Europe walked away in decisive fashion. We will protect our markets.
Airbus shares surged while U.S. sectors faced immediate pressure. COMAC's entry marks the first serious alternative to Western dominance in aviation. FAA influence risks being eroded as parallel certification paths appear. Brussels scales the CETA model worldwide. Fast-track deals make exclusion of the U.S. that much realer. The $2 trillion has not disappeared. It is being redirected, contracts changed hands, alliances rewritten. The real question: who will write the new rulebook for the global economy? Recap. Tariffs triggered retaliation. Boeing's deal could collapse. Europe and Canada are forging alternative corridors, and global trade is being rewritten. The United States risks strategic isolation. Allies are choosing stability, predictability, and new rules without Washington. Key takeaways. 1. Tariffs can accelerate realignment. 2. Aviation and agriculture face major shifts. 3. New trade frameworks are forming. Invite viewers to comment on their thoughts about the trade war and to check out other videos for more insights on global trade issues. Stay tuned for updates. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for breaking coverage.